house in Baltimore, and the Orioles held, caught, and delivered all of our attention collectively at Fenway Park with a sweep of the Red Sox in the, I'm calling them the Jetsons uniforms. I don't know really, beer league softball, day glow, I don't know what it was. Buck Showalter said it looked like he was going hunting. I think he looked like Elmer Fudd. But there were other things going on this weekend, including some golf. This guy covers golf for us here at WNST.net. He also does golf sales for a living down at Compass Point. If you're throwing a little party, a little festival, or if you just want to get on over the weekend, jump down there. Say hello down at Compass Point in Anne Arundel County. Robert Kennedy can always be reached at Buckets and Birds on Twitter and wherever golf is being played. And you know, you're sort of running out of it. It's a good time for people to go out and actually golf because the golf on television is starting to dry up a little bit here as football starts, right?
Yeah, good morning, Nestor. Yeah, it definitely is. You know, it's the majors are over, as we've spoken about. A couple of weeks ago they wrapped up, and now the golf is in the middle of, began the FedEx Cup playoffs this past weekend, and that'll run through the end of the month, and then, you know, go right into the President's Cup at the end of the month, and for the most part, that will be obviously the end of the season. So it's, you know, another good month of good golf, just like it was this past weekend up there in New York City as far as what the Northern Trust Open. But
well, you can't ask for more in New York than two of the biggest stars in the sport, you know, going toe-to-toe to the end, right?
Oh, absolutely. It couldn't have been better. The two of the top players in the world, that's exactly what you want to see when you get to these type of events. Dustin Johnson, Jordan Spieth, for all intents and purposes, after about 5 holes, it became a match play event. It looked like Jordan was going to. He went in with a 3-stroke lead on Sunday, and looked like he had actually gotten it up to 5. So it looked like he might kind of run away with it. But you know, he hit the ball in the water on a par 3, as he has done before in a major tournament. Speaking of the Masters last year, and that gave Dustin a chance to get back into it. And so the back 9 was just really riveting. You know,
there's a little history there with these guys too, right?
There is. You know, as far as Dustin overtook Jordan as far as number 1 in the world a while back, earlier in the year, and they've had the playoff. Well, I should say the potential playoff at the U.S. Open last year. That when Jordan Spieth won at Chambers Bay, Dustin Johnson 3-putted that final hole to you know, went from a potential win with a birdie putt to missing the par putt for the playoff to finish runner-up.
My wife and I watched that one. I remember that one pretty vividly. You know, you remember the meltdowns a little bit.
Absolutely, and yeah, that was definitely a meltdown on Johnson's end as far as the 3-putt. He came back and, you know, won the U.S. Open last year in 16. So, you know, these are two of the premier players on the U.S. You know, PGA Tour and the U.S. Team, and so to see them in the finals, in the final pairing, and you know, watch Johnson hitting his drive, you know, 50 yards past Spieth on several holes. Yeah, it was pretty entertaining television for the whole afternoon.
Robert Kennedy, our golf analyst here at WNST.net and at Compass Point, joining us here with a little recap of the weekend and getting us ready for President's Cup, getting us ready for a little fall golf down at Compass Point as well. You know, I want to ask you this because part of this is, you know, I do watch golf from time to time. I did not watch this weekend. I knew it was there. You sort of know everything's there. You know the U.S. Open's there right now on the tennis side, as well as whatever's going on baseball, whether it's a brawl with the Tigers and the Yankees. You sort of, you know, especially if you're on Twitter as I am in the sports world, you see when a Julian Edelman goes down. I mean, you know, golf's competing with a lot of things, and I think part of the golf allure for people who play golf and love golf is having favorite golfers or villain golfers, right? Whether it was, you know, Tiger Woods for me. I know some people didn't like Vijay Singh. I know some people either rooted for or against Greg Norman. And I'm sure even back in the day, as gentlemanly as Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer were, once they started winning a whole lot, there was somebody out there that wanted to see him get beat, if nothing else, right? When it comes to the Johnson and the Spieth and just where we are, like, you know, I sort of liked Bubba Watson. You know, I sort of pulled for him because he reminded me of a guy that was sort of like making fun of some of the hallowed traditions of golf. I pulled for Payne Stewart because I liked his trousers and, you know, his gear and whatnot. But, you know, I don't know that I've ever had a favorite golfer in the way that Sixto Lezcano was my favorite baseball player. But I'm thinking if you're growing up now, or even if you're a guy your age watching this, do you find yourself pulling for Johnson or Spieth for any specific reason when it comes down to it like that?
You do, absolutely. Just I think because it's an individual sport more so than anything else. I've heard people equate it to NASCAR. Just
Sure.
like you kind of touched on there before.
But everybody in NASCAR has their favorite driver. They do.
Absolutely, and the bad guys that they root against. Just like you said, just as many people hated Tiger Woods that loved him. There was never, and even though he hasn't had a memorable finish in 2 or 3 years, he's still a lightning point for discussion. When there's people out there, when Tiger gets back, and others that say he'll never play a meaningful round of golf.
Some in the NBA were waiting for Jordan to come back until LeBron showed up, right?
Absolutely.
The Orioles are still waiting on Cal Ripken to return. You know what I mean? Well, that's just these Halley's Comet things. That's what you get, and that's where golf is right now. And none of these guys appear to be Tiger because it's too hard to win every week and to win by 10 shots every. The things that he did at that particular point in golf, I don't know that we'll ever see any dominance by one player in that way again. Right? It's what made it so special to begin with, right?
Right. I don't think we will either. That just shows how incredible what he did was for that 7 or 8 year period between 2000 and 2008. There are some really good golfers out there now, as the Johnsons and the Spieths, the Rory McIlroys, the Ricky Fowlers, the Justin Thomases, and every week they're going against each other and beating each other up. And you could say the fields are deeper than they were when Tiger was dominant, but that's not necessarily true. I mean, he had the aforementioned villain Vijay Singh you mentioned, Ernie Els, Phil Mickelson, the David Duval. So he was going up against guys that were just as strong as probably everyone else at that time. He was just so dominant. But in this era of golfers, the ones we've just mentioned, the media is so quick to, once one wins a major, is he going to be the next dominant one? And we've heard that from Johnson, we've heard that from Spieth, and we've heard it about McIlroy. Now McIlroy and Spieth are probably the two most dominant of the current crop because they've won 4 majors for McIlroy, 3 for Spieth. Johnson's only got 1. Ricky Fowler's still waiting for his first. So once you get past that group, there really isn't a lot of other names that are talked about. So to see a Johnson and a Spieth up there in the finals of a playoff event is really the type of thing that will get not just the avid golfer, but you hope that it pulls in some of the casual golfers that are waiting for football to start and everything.
He is Robert Kennedy. He is Buckets and Birds out on Twitter. I think it's kind of hard to hate on Spieth and hard to hate on, I don't know, some guys hated on Bob Backlund for being too clean living as well over the weekend, but it's certainly not like the fight was on Saturday night where, everyone's sort of deplorable and detestable, and it's just, which wife beater or villain do you want to, have on your side one way or another. I think the one thing about this era of golf is all these guys are pretty clean living, pretty straight and narrow, pretty, off the college course. You know of them. The resurgence for the American side is all there, and golf is such an international game. It's a nice time for American golfers. I mean, I remember for years we'd look at tennis and say, where's the next Jimmy Connors coming from, right?
Absolutely, and Spieth and Johnson, Fowler, they're all, like you said, great representatives. There's a fragment of fans out there that don't like Spieth. Some of them think he whines a little too bit. That they think he's every putt should go in. But give me any golfer who's missed a 10-foot putt who didn't look at that and say, how did that not go in? So it's just he's a little bit more demonstrative when he does it. Dustin Johnson is about as laid back as they come. When he made a putt on Sunday that pretty much gave him the lead, he gave one little. It wasn't even a fist pump; it was just a raised fist, and that was a lot of emotion for him. He went through his first controversial thing. I guess it was back in 2015, where he took a 6-month leave of absence, voluntary leave of absence to deal with personal issues. It was widely reported by Golf Magazine and others that he had failed drug tests, which the PGA administered, and he had tested positive for a couple illegal substances. They don't, have a widely publicized drug policy like some of the other sports do. They kind of keep it hush-hush because, as you mentioned, this is golf and it's a gentlemanly sport, and they don't. Oh,
come on, man! Tiger Woods back in the day when he's hitting those drives. Come on, man! There's all sorts of things that have been going on in golf that just have been shined the light upon in other sports and called doping elsewhere. There, it was called vitamins, right?
Right. Or, hitting the weight room like they've never been done before. And certainly Tiger, there were the whispers of the blood spinning treatments he'd received, and the doctors that he'd received midnight visits from Canada and everything. And yes, a lot of it was he was one of the ones that brought on the first to get in the weight room and changed what golfers look like, whether it was all natural or whether there was some artificial help there as well. But he brought in that era of golfers becoming athletes.
He took out that John Daly body type, in the same way the Jerry Forster. Right? In baseball, Bartolo Colon still has that body type, right? So we can't knock it. It's worked for him for a long time. Still working for John Daly up at up in northern Baltimore County last month too, I guess, right?
Right, and over in Denmark over this past weekend, where he did really well in a European event over there. So
it's a gift.
That's right. Some bodies are just made to perform regardless of what they look like.
Tell me about the President's Cup a little bit and what's going on there, because I know we're getting up on that.
Right, it comes up at the end of the month. It'll be up in New Jersey. Another one up in the just across the river from New York City, which we've talked about before. It's a big event anytime you're up there in New York City. It'll be a Trump National. There's one more week of qualifying for the team for the players. For the most part, the big names for the U.S. are pretty much set, and they're going to be in it. The Dustin Johnson, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, Ricky Fowler, they're all going to be on the team. When you get down to there'll be 10 automatic qualifiers. There'll be 2 captain's picks once the final standings are situated, and that'll be interesting. The biggest interesting thing there is whether Steve Stricker, who's the captain of this year's team, whether he'll make Phil Mickelson a captain's pick. Right now, Mickelson's standing down in 18th in the standings, and hasn't really had a good year at all. He had some good early showings in the year, but for the last 2 months or so, he really hasn't had anything to speak of. But yet, it'd be hard not to go with his experience on the team and what he would just bring to the other guys. Especially when you look at some of the other names that'll be in contention for those 2 captains' picks. None of them really stand out to having done anything. So that will be something interesting to watch. Mickelson could really stand to, have a good weekend this weekend coming up in Boston for the second round of the playoffs at TPC Boston to really help his chances. So that'll be interesting to see. But right now the U.S. team looks really stacked at the top, like I said, with the Johnsons, the Spieths, the Thomases, the Fowlers, going against the international team, which they're pretty heavy loaded at the top as well. But once you get past their top 5 or 6 guys, you're struggling to find any big names that people will recognize. You've got Matsuyama, Jason Day, Adam Scott, Oosthuizen in the top, and then you get down to some of the other names that aren't as familiar. So the U.S. won the last one in 2015, so they're looking to hold on to the cup again at the end of the month.
He is Robert Kennedy. You can find him at Buckets and Birds out on Twitter, as well as a Compass Point golf course down there in Pasadena, where they're doing the night golf thing, which I need to see that for myself, but I don't like mosquitoes, Robert. But what's going on? Give me a little update on Compass Point. I know you've had some big events down there lately.
We have. The night golf was just this past weekend, and we had a full field sellout event for it of close to 70 players, and it was a great time, a great evening for it Friday night. So, I think everyone that went out came back, so no one got lost in the dark. So that's always a win.
As long as the weather holds up, man, that's important, right?
Right, and we're in a perfect spell for it this last week or so, and the week coming up.
This past weekend, my God, whatever you wanted to do outside this was the time to do it. Even though the storm was going on in Houston, it was beautiful here.
Yeah, it was, and that's great for golf. It's great weather for us. So we've got another big event coming up this coming weekend, Saturday the 2nd. We have our Compass Cup. So if you're into a little bit more of competitive golf, and it's kind of a Ryder Cup, President Cup style, where you get to find a partner and play 9 holes of best ball, 9 holes of scramble, and 9 holes of alternate shot. So it'd be a fun event. And right now, that's looking like it may fill up as well. So there's still time for people to jump on our website or call the course and get more information about that and get involved in it.
Good work, man. I appreciate the insights and the updates on all things golf. We're going to send everybody out. I know it's almost basketball season for you, so Robert Cannon will be out there watching all sorts of local college hoops as well. Buckets, that's the basketball side, and Birds, that's the golf side. You can go check him out at Compass Point, and you can find out more at compasspointgolf.com down in Pasadena, as well as 410-255-7764. Robert, always a pleasure, man. Hit him straight this week. We'll see you soon. Enjoy the holiday.
Thanks, Nestor. You as well.
Everybody's got a long weekend here. Hopefully a short football game on Thursday night in New Orleans, and the Orioles home for the next 10 days, trying to stay in this pennant race. I am Nestor. You can find me out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device. By downloading the TuneIn Radio app, we do come in crystal clear. It's all brought to you by our friends at buyatoyota.com, who've been with the audio vault from the beginning. Morning newspaper ships to your email inbox each and every morning digitally. It's all brought to you by our friends at Planet Fitness and planetfitness.com. It's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life there, guaranteed. If there's any breaking news at all, the WNST tech service will be lighting up your mobile device. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Any breaking news at all, and of course with the Ravens, going to be a lot of cuts going on this week. You'll find out first, and the Orioles going to expand their roster to 40 men by the end of the week. So a busy time here as we sort of turn the page on summer, get into football mode. Terps playing against Texas this week. We've got a ton of stuff happening around here. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. Don't forget, if you're going over to London next month, we are throwing an all-day Saturday afternoon party at a beautiful British pub called Fox at XL in the East London Docklands area. You take the tube over, and what's going to happen is we're going to drink, we're going to eat, we're going to march, and then we are going to ride the cable car over the River Thames. It's unbelievable. If you hate heights, you're going to hate it. If you love being up in the air, you're going to love it. If you ever took the cable car across Hershey Park, this is better. And it's all going to happen to the O2 Arena on Saturday, the 23rd of September. Toss me a note. Check it out at WNST.net. We have all the details for you. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.